But first, doesn't it seem like you're hearing more about hoarding and animal abuse cases now than ever? We're joined by the Society for Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, Schenectady, DaveDean, who is an investigator with the SPCA in Schenectady County. Thanks very much for joining us, David.
Good morning, Phil. Thanks for having me.
We should mention, you may be a familiar face. You were a police officer with the Troy Department for years.
Yes, 21 years with Troy PD.
Well, it's good to see you again. Are you busier than ever at the SPCA?
We are. There's when we get one big case, and we've had some big cases recently, it just spurns others. Our phones just rings off the hook.
So many of these cases involve hoarding. Is there more hoarding going on, or are we just hearing about it more?
Well, there's a lot of awareness now. Hoarding is a big hoarding topic in the media, and there's mainstream TV shows that put that out there. So people are aware and they know what to look for, and unfortunately we are getting more calls. Recently we recovered 42 cats and some other animals from a hoarding incident in Rotterdam, just to give one example. Which
probably isn't the largest. What's the largest one you've been?
Well, we've had incidents with over 100 animals involved. So we're hoping not to keep, we don't want to beat our record all the time, but who knows what's out there.
These are usually cats and dogs?
Cats and dogs mostly. We do have some large animal issues. We've dealt with cases with 20 or 30 horses at a time. And
emaciated, not being fed, not being cared for.
Yeah, well, that's the allegation, and we go in there and try to determine, try to preserve the owner's rights, and try to be very objective. And we have a network of professionals that work, hand in hand with us.
So for people who aren't aware, I mean, what really describes a case of hoarding?
Well, when you have usually it starts out with a well-intentioned person. They take in a few animals, maybe they might even go to a shelter, or a neighbor may be moving and they'll take the animal. And it just happens, one after another. And oftentimes there's economic conditions that change for them, where they can't feed the animals or care for them. And then it's a slippery slope, and that's what happens.
So you get to talk to these people.
Yes.
What do these hoarders say to you? How do they explain their actions when you come in and you might find 50 animals in there, dogs and cats, and, not to be indelicate, but aren't I right? I mean, I've been in some of these places. You may have 3 or 4 inches of packed down feces covering the floor. I mean, these are really filthy conditions.
Absolutely. Oftentimes there's some mental health issues wrapped right into this, so it's very difficult. They do not want to give up the animals. There's a lot of justification. I coulda, shoulda, woulda. I was about to do the right thing. If this hadn't happened, this wouldn't be going on. And, and you would think you would just be able to point to the living conditions, but there's a different reality in some of these cases where you're not really, it's not apples to apples. You're not dealing on the same page. So what we try to do is we don't go in with a hammer. I mean, the goal's not to lock somebody up on a hoarding issue. Oftentimes what you'll see is if we have 50 or 40 cats, you'll see the person charged with one low-level crime to get them into the system, and then to make sure they don't have animals for a while, and that they're kind of under scrutiny. So we really want to come from a very delicate and therapeutic angle, and instead of wielding a big club and trying to put them in jail.
And they, in many cases, think they're doing the right thing, even when you're talking to them and pointing out the conditions, the appalling conditions. They still think they're doing a good thing for these animals.
As an example, we had a horse investigation in Schoharie County, and we're standing next to a horse with ribs sticking out, and you would think that the owner standing there and just not seeing it or defending it, or hey, that's the breed, they're a little bit lean. But the one thing I do want to point out, it's very technical. We bring in veterinarians, and we have a system that we use where we can either call an expert or bring them to the scene. So we always err on the side of caution in these issues, because there's a lot of different breeds of animals out there, and you have to be on top of your game with all of them.
And you mentioned that was a case in Schoharie, and it was connected to the SPCA.
Yeah.
Your experience, a retired police officer, so Schenectady SPCA is sort of a high-end group, is it not?
Well, it's very unique. There's nothing like it in the certainly in the Capital District or in upstate New York. Very odd hybrid of an agency. We're a private we're a private agency, yet we have law enforcement powers of arrest. We wear police uniforms. We wear gun uniforms. We drive police cars, and we're actually New York State certified peace officers. There's a very rigorous training and certification for that. So you really don't you don't see it. And the other great thing, it's no draw on taxes whatsoever. We're 100% volunteer staffed, and we're funded by private donations.
Amazing, amazing. Did I hear recently that hoarding actually gets worse in the winter?
Sure it does, yeah. People that have animals on the outside, will have reports if they don't bring them in, but oftentimes they'll bring them right into the house. And what you'll see in the spring and the summer is that they don't get them out of the house. That's where you get the takeover by the animals. And oftentimes we'll find the owners sleeping in their cars or sleeping in tents. They actually get moved out of the house by the animals.
Wow. And you pointed out, this can result in criminal charges.
There's usually a criminal effect on it. As an example, in Rotterdam, we recently had a case with a woman where we removed 42 cats, and we did charge her with a crime in that case. But it's not, you don't charge everything you can charge. That's
Right.
not the goal.
Right.
It's just to get them into the system. And often what the result is that, they may not be able to own animals. The judge may put an order that 3 years before they can own another animal, and then they have to be monitored. So there's a lot of stuff that we do that does not result in.
So and you wouldn't have that leverage if you just cleaned out the animals and said, listen, you're a nice, and just don't do it again.
Yeah. We do.
But with one charge, then you have a bit of a hammer, as you put it, to enforce the rules, even though you're not looking to send them to jail.
We're able to put the people into the system and get them some, mental health evaluation and get a little bit of control over their future conduct and, monitor them owning animals.
So, has this hoarding that we're hearing so much about now, has it always been going on and now we're just becoming enlightened, or is this a reflection of something that's going on now that didn't used to go on?
I believe that it's always been going on, probably with the same frequency, but we're made more aware of it now because the public's educated.
All right, some people are probably considering getting a pet right now for the holidays, for Christmas present.
Sure.
What are the do's and don'ts?
Let's not have a feel-good pet, purchase. There's nothing like having a puppy running around, and it smells great. It's fun to play with. It's licking your nose, but you really have to consider the vet costs, the upkeep,
which can be considerable.
Yeah.
I laugh because I always get my dogs at the pound.
Oh,
and,
sure.
Free dog.
Absolutely.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, sure.
Free dog costs about $1,000.
Sure. I have a very small dog at home, and I'll tell you, it takes me to the limit, financially sometimes.
Yeah.
And it's tough. Those regular visits, all the vaccinations and all the different, the stuff that they prescribe for worms and ticks and everything can really be expensive. So no feel-good purchase. This is a living, breathing creature. Buy a toy or something, or buy a plant for the person, if you have any questions. But really try to consider the ramifications of down the road. And also people like their work schedules, are you in a position, are you around enough to take care of the dog? There's a lot to think about.
And consider how you're going to train the dog, because
Sure.
as much as dogs, I think, want to please you, it's difficult to convey the point to them.
Sure.
So you have to train them. There are certainly skilled trainers out there who will help you.
Absolutely.
Help you enroll in classes, but that can also cost money.
Sure.
But you have to train them how to behave. Otherwise, you're not going to be happy with their behavior, and you're going to become frustrated with them.
And consult people about a breed. Get an appropriate breed for your lifestyle, and you can really make a nice match if you put some effort into it. But buying a dog or a cat or any animal for an effect or to improve your reputation on the street or to impress your neighbors, you're definitely going in the wrong direction.
I got a St. Bernard once at the pound, and the note on the cage why she was turned into the pound, didn't know she'd get this big.
Oh,
she's a St. Bernard.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, do a little research.
Sure.
I've never seen a small St. Bernard.
Sure.
Yeah. Anyway, all good advice. And if you can pass all that criteria, there's nothing better.
Oh, absolutely.
Than having a pet.
Really adds a lot to your life.
Yeah.
And you know, through the SPCA, I've been able to become aware of, you know, how intense, you know, animal lovers and animal owners are. It's a whole like subculture, and there's reasons for that, you know.
How many of these pets given as holiday gifts end up for adoption, you know, 2 months later?
Yeah, it's hard to quantify, but unfortunately I believe it's more than you would think, really. I think people find it an easy option just to bring a dog to the pound or a cat to the pound, or to seek one of these organizations. But a little thinking ahead of time could save a lot of, you know, misery on the back end and financial strain on these organizations that we need unencumbered to take care of the real distressed animals that we have no control over, that we need them to care for.
So maybe January and February are good times to go look for a pet to adopt?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, it's always a good time. It's always a good time.
You mentioned the economic stresses. I remember during the real height of the real recession,
yes.
And people said they were finding, animal rescue groups said they were finding sometimes horses and cattle just turned loose in the woods because the owners couldn't afford to feed them anymore.
I have heard incidents like that. We have not directly had anything like that, but Hurricane Irene caused such a strain on the system of animal advocacy. We're still reeling from it. I mean,
what can you tell us about? Yeah, I mean,
sure.
You know, suddenly, you know, that turns everybody's world upside down. And I imagine some animals, just frightened by what was going on, just took off.
Sure. And people were faced with some terrible decisions. You know, they were left without a home. Some left without jobs because of the damage, and some people had % of them were filled. And if not for some extraordinary efforts locally, where people were even just opening their homes, and some shelters were going way above and beyond, we would not have been able to deal with the crisis. And
you're a 100% volunteer operation.
We're 100% volunteer. Nobody draws a paycheck. The other thing too is, you know, for anybody that's thinking about joining our organization, it seems like these things never happen between 8 and 4 on a nice sunny day. You know, plan on. We're always out in the middle of the night, and you know, it's truly one of the organizations that it's just a give. You're just giving.
Who is it you need? I mean, you're a retired police officer.
True. We have the Schenectady County SPCA. We have two sides to it: a civilian side and a law enforcement side, and we have around 12 people on each. And we're going to try in the next few months to bolster those ranks. And we're happy to bring in people that are into fundraising and marketing and strategies on our civilian side, but we're also looking for good people to expand our peace officer ranks, and we'll provide that training and you know, make sure you're all set before we send you out on a case. But hey, we would love to have people with some experience, but we have a little bit of blend of both, people that have always been interested in advocating for animals and had an interest in law enforcement. But would we take some retired people, or you know, some people that are currently working? We would love that.
Do you need veterinarians?
Well, we have a great network, but we're always taking more. Our veterinarians, we actually get calls weekly from people saying, what can we do for you? So we like to say in the Schenectady County SPCA, if you have time or you have some money to donate, you know, give us a call, contact us. We can always be reached at countyspca.org, and we're also on Facebook. And you know, we're always looking for people that can assist us.
All right, and we're going to provide a link on our website at WNYT.com. look at news links, and you should find the SPCA line there. Is your funding keeping up with your demand right now?
Absolutely not. And one example of that is one large hoarding incident wipes us out. And so we always try to do some press around that, saying we made it all through with this one, but if something happens tomorrow, you know, it really saps our resources. So we're trying to work on some effective strategies, maybe to make some, you know, some corporate partners, some professional partners, but we do live and breathe right now on the individual, just throwing a few bucks our way, and they're really helping us keep going.
All right, and go to your website if you want to volunteer or make a donation.
Absolutely.
And again, we're going to offer a link on our website at WNYT.com, and then look for the SPCA in news links. David Dean with the Schenectady County SPCA, thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for joining us on Forum 13. We'll be right back with a really interesting book about